Welcome back to Explaining Everything, the channel where we dive into the stories and mysteries behind everyday things. Today's question comes from one of our curious viewers, Grease Monkey 97. Thanks for the suggestion, Grease Monkey. You asked, how is Babbitt metal made? At first glance, Babbitt metal sounds like something a Looney Tunes character would chew on, or maybe a rejected Marvel villain. But in reality, it's a special alloy with a very specific purpose, keeping machines from grinding themselves to death. If you've ever wondered how people actually make this strange but vital material, stay tuned as we melt, mix, and pour our way through the surprisingly fascinating world of Babbitt metal, right here on Explaining Everything. To understand how it's made, let's rewind a bit. Babbitt metal was invented in 1839 by a guy named Isaac Babbitt, who, shockingly, did not call it Isaac metal or super slidey stuff. Nope, he went with his last name, probably because Babbitt is fun to say and looks great on a patent form. The whole point of his invention was to make a material that could be poured into bearing housings to reduce friction. In other words, Babbitt metal is like a buttery non-stick coating for big, clunky machine parts. So what exactly is in this magical alloy? Well, there are actually a couple of different recipes, but the most common ones usually involve a base of tin or lead mixed with some copper and antimony. Together, these ingredients form a strange team, like the Avengers of metallurgy, but with way less spandex. Tin-based Babbitt is tin plus copper and antimony. Stronger, shinier, more expensive. Lead-based Babbitt is lead plus copper and antimony. Cheaper, duller, still works great. But knowing the recipe is only step one. Making it is where the fun and the fire really starts. The process begins with, you guessed it, heat. A lot of it. Making Babbitt metal means melting down the ingredients, and each one has a slightly different melting point. Tin melts like butter on a hot pancake at just over 230 degrees Celsius. Lead's a little tougher at 327 degrees Celsius. Antimony, though, is stubborn. It doesn't give up until nearly 630 degrees Celsius. And copper? Oh, copper makes everyone wait until a fiery 1085 degrees Celsius. Basically, if this were a party, copper would be the guest who refuses to arrive until the lights are dimmed, the snacks are gone, and everyone's already tired. In practice, foundries melt tin or lead first as the base metal. Once that's liquid and bubbly like a metallic soup, they start adding in the copper and antimony. Because copper is such a diva, it's often pre-melted in small amounts or introduced as a finely powdered form to help it blend more easily. The whole time, workers stir the molten mixture like it's a witch's cauldron. Only instead of casting spells, they're praying it doesn't splash, because a face full of molten tin is way less fun than a face mask at the spa. Now here's where it gets tricky. Making Babbitt metal isn't just about tossing metals together and calling it a day. The ratios have to be just right. Too much copper. The alloy gets brittle, like a cookie that snaps instead of bends. Too much antimony. Same problem. It becomes hard but cracks under stress. Too much lead? Congratulations! You've just made a very soft, sad alloy that might as well be butter on a hot sidewalk. The art of Babbitt is finding that balance. the sweet spot. Enough strength from the copper and antimony to handle wear and tear, but enough softness from the LED or tin so that the surface can give a little and protect moving parts. Once the balance is right, the mixture gets degassed, basically removing bubbles so the metal doesn't look like Swiss cheese. Think of it like burping a giant molten baby. After that, it's ready to pour. Here comes the final act. Casting the Babbitt metal. The molten alloy is poured into molds, often directly into the housings or shells of bearings. Imagine filling a cupcake tin, but instead of muffins, you're making shiny metal linings that will let giant machine shafts spin smoothly without seizing up. As it cools, the alloy solidifies into a strong but forgiving surface. One of the coolest parts? Under a microscope, Babbitt metal has a weird microstructure. Hard little crystals of copper and antimony float in a softer matrix of tin or lead. That combo is perfect. The hard bits resist wear, while the softer areas trap oil and keep things lubricated. It's like the alloy made itself a built-in moisturizer. After cooling, the surface usually gets machined or scraped smooth to the perfect fit. At that point, the Babbitt lining is ready to do its job, living a quiet, underappreciated life, keeping machinery alive. So, to recap, you start with a recipe of tin or lead. Stir in some copper and antimony. Melt it all down. Mix it to the perfect balance. Pour it into molds and let it solidify into one of the most useful, machine-friendly materials ever invented. It's not flashy, it's not glamorous, and it doesn't have a Marvel movie deal. But without it, countless machines, from engines to turbines, would have worn out long before their time. Next time you hear the word Babbitt, don't think of cartoon rabbits or forgotten comic book villains. Think of molten metal, precise chemistry, and a humble alloy that quietly keeps the world turning. If you learned something new, don't forget to like, subscribe, and that's the story of how Babbitt metal is made. Equal parts science, fire, and patience. Also, if you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our other bingeable channels. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about, here on Explaining Everything.